Hello, friends. So, this is the chapter on the sociology of religion. I don't know if we were together, I might start off this topic by saying something to the effect of, do you consider yourself to be a religious person? I tend not to think of myself as a religious person, but apparently my colleagues think I am. I do attend church. I always have considered myself to have a faith identity, though I'm kind of a church hopper. I've tried a bunch of different churches. So I actually really like this chapter. I think we'll talk about some of the sociology of religion here in just a second. So let's start off with Durkheim. You remember way back from chapter 1 when I introduced some of the different theorists. Durkheim was the fella. He talked about suicide, and he's the one that's coined the functionalist theory, and talks about things like this. Okay, so Durkheim writes this book. There it is, 1912, The Elementary Forms of Religious Life. And he comes to three conclusions: that all religions, or this is what he says about religions, is that there is no, from religion to religion, there's no beliefs in common. That what they do all have in common is some sort of moral community, some sort of sense, and that's why we would talk about religion in a sociology class, is because about the connection of a group, and that they all seek to separate the sacred from the profane. And you'll notice all of those terms are bolded here. So what we mean by the sacred, the profane would be sort of social, it would be like societal, and sacred would be those things beyond, or the special things, or the forbidden things would be the sacred. And if you think about, anyway, okay, so he concluded that there were three elements, that these groups had these three basic elements, and groups were not a religion unless they had the three elements. And so later on, I want to talk about how, are there other ways to think about religions? Are there other non-church based groups that would qualify as religion based on these three elements? So one element is a belief system, right? That a belief about separate the sacred from the profane. Are there certain beliefs in common? Do they have practices and rituals? So sort of the actions of the tradition. And then again, a community of people. So a religion can't be just one person. It has to be a community of people. There has to be some activities that they do, these rituals or practices, that are intended to illustrate or remind or reinforce the system of ideas, the system of beliefs. It becomes a church, right, when a church then is by definition this community of believers that that go through these actions or participate in these rituals and these beliefs. And that is, so that I would be like your sociological definition of a church, and then we'll talk. Okay, so we got those three theories, right? Functionalist, conflict theory, and symbolic interactionism. So from the functionalist perspective, sure, religion, this system of beliefs that people have in common, serve a whole lot of functions, a whole lot of necessary social functions. And we can sort of read through them here if you want. But basically, it helps us understand the things that we can't otherwise understand. It helps us during times of trouble and sort of emotional and social support. It creates a community. So think about if you've ever moved from one town to another town and you find a church, and you immediately can assume that you are amongst a group of people who have shared similar worldviews, and they will be there to help you. So all of those things get tied together. Acts as a set of social control. And different groups work harder or spend more of their efforts as a form of social control, sort of dictating what is right, what appropriate behavior. Adaptation to new environments, I already talked about that one. And in a lot of cases, these groups are supported by the government. Things like state religions refers to like the Church of England, or Islam is the state religion of like Iran and Iraq. One of the histories of our country is that we do not have a state religion. We would be more like a civil religions, and that is, even though we don't have like by member. So to be a state religion, if you are a member of that region, if you're a member of the United States, you are automatically a member of a particular church, like the Church of England. If you are a member of England, a citizen of England, you are a member of the Church of England. Part of the history of the founding of the United States was for that not to be the case. But we do practice some of these principles of civil religion in that, and I think this is a quiz question, or it used to be a quiz question. Nope, that was from another chapter, is that even if you are not religious, the religion still influences what you do. So take, for example, when we, the phrase under God in the Pledge of Allegiance, we have God bless America. A lot of politicians say that. You have reference to God on our money, right? All of these, that we put our hand on the Bible when we swear to be honest in court. So these are illustrations that, and it's not all religions, but it's just Christianity would be our civil religion, right? And then we'll talk about some of the groups within that Christianity that, for instance, some churches have flags in the altars, and other faith traditions, other Christian-based faith traditions, don't have flags in the altar. And I'll talk about some of that. That's a phenomenon we call Christian nationalism. And Christian nationalism is sort of a political philosophy that says that God blesses America. And the question is that does God not bless other nations? Why are Americans so good? But I may or may not get to that later on. And then social change. So a lot of religious organizations have supported the civil rights movements, or emancipation, or abortion is another example of how religions get involved in and are used to justify or to facilitate social change. But so there you go. That was where I was going to get to some of the functional equivalents. So by this definition that we were talking about in just the previous slide, that it's a group of shared believers who have rituals, then one could argue, and some sociologists do, that these other groups act as they're basically function just like a religion, like Alcoholics Anonymous. They have documents, they have literature, they come together, they have shared beliefs, they have accountability that they hold each other. I guess psychotherapy would fall under or humanism, and humanism is a spiritual philosophy. What about political parties? When I was in graduate school, my advisor commented once that he kind of thought of even as sociology as a kind of functional equivalent to a religion, because we have our founders, we have our shared beliefs, our shared ideas. There are lots of organizations that act as a community of supporters, and then as sociologists, we hold each other accountable for engaging in the world, helping create positive understanding of the world. I don't know. I don't disagree with that idea. Anyway, so that's what I mean by functional equivalent. Of course, for some people, they reject organized religion because of the dysfunctions of religion. I mean, just the same way that we can talk about all the good things religion can do or has done, it's done some really nasty things, right? I mean, Christianity's been used to justify slavery, the witch trials, the Inquisition. Currently today around the world, there are wars going on, all in the name of religion. And so some folks really struggle with the tension between what they see as hypocrisy, and I'm talking within the faith traditions, that we say we're about, love, and that is one of the things that many of them have in common. We say we're about love, but at the same time we're inflicting pain and suffering, and so how do you sort of reconcile? One of the best books that I read or listened to that was addressing that is that's the church, that's not God, right? So the bad things that come out of organized religion are created by people. That was his argument, and not created by the divine. So anyway, okay, I'll stop here. When I come back, I'll talk about some of the three theories: symbolic interactionism, function. Oh no, the other two theories, right? That's what I'll talk about.